What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Codex Station's Comic Character of the Week. You know the drill here. We take one character, give you that deep dive on that character, and everything you want to know. Of course, Gary is sporting that character right now. And as you can see by the ticker down below, we are going to be talking about Kamandi, the last boy on Earth. I am your host, Sal the Slab Guy. Down below is Dan the Man Kelly. Of course, right there is the Ric Flair of comics, who helped fix my internet today, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I did. And I had to speak to somebody about that.
And then, of course, over here we have the master builder himself, the head cheese, the top dog, J-Dub.
Hi.
What's going on, guys? You braving the weather okay?
I was in it I got more sunburn and tan than I needed. 2.5 hours out walking around. Whew, boy,
my wife is all week, and then tomorrow too has been having to work outside for like 10 hours a day, all day long, because she's running a fire test. So she has to be outside all day as they're, doing the drills of driving the trucks and, doing the exercises of the buildings and all this. And, she just gets home and it just like collapses.
I hear you.
Yep. That's what I used to do every day, working out in that stuff. It was never any fun.
Yeah.
Nope. Oh, as you can see, I'm not in the slabatorium. I'm out hunting slabs, so the slabatorium is locked up right now. There has been no access to the slabatorium this week.
Dan, what time are we going over the slabatorium tomorrow to clean it out? Kamandi, Pam.
Mm-hmm.
Pam,
tomorrow,
Pam, I need a commitment from you. If you will be here, if you'll commit to be here for Comics Unleashed for the showcase, I will have those Legion appearances for you. So, I just need to make sure that you'll be here for me to pull the rest of them.
Well, Gary, you can go by Sal's place anytime you want, but the only thing you're going to find is some dog hair and trampoline in the back.
Yeah,
that's it,
and just a trail of meatballs.
That's right.
Where did all this marinara come from?
That's not marinara, that's blood.
Blood, baby.
It's blood.
That's what he wants you to think.
That's what.
Well, that's what that's what Sal bleeds.
Marinara.
You slice the vein and you bleed marinara.
Mm-hmm.
And when he cries, it's not tears that come out; it's that Italian sandwich dressing.
Wow. I don't even want to ask what any other bodily fluids might be.
We're not gonna go there. We're gonna skip to the business. Okay?
The business.
We're gonna skip to the business. And
I'm giving you the business.
Yeah, I know you're giving me the business. All right, you love it. Don't change my name tonight. I'm gonna change yours permanently. So, like I said before, you can always find me on YouTube under Sal's Comic Corner. Oh yeah.
This Saturday, Pam. This Saturday, then you got your Legion first appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. You'll find me on Sal's Comic Corner on YouTube and the Slab Guy 77 on Instagram. Bonus, I'm going to be on Rob's Fat Stack of Comics Saturday afternoon at 2:30. All right, so the link is on my personal YouTube site. To go check it out. And
is that like a sacrificial thing? He's going to lay you on his fat stack of comics, and then he's
we're going to be talking slabs, baby.
Mm-hmm.
It's slab all day, every day. All right, so down below is Dan the Man Kelly, who is running Instagram right now when he's not making fun of my meatball sub.
Yep, posting a lot of sketch covers on there. I got a stack of them I'm working on now so I can get rid of them. So that's what you'll be seeing for the next few weeks. Gary, I had an idea for a showcase too, though, it would probably be something you wouldn't want to do because it would be kind of time consuming, is if you had a showcase of all 0 issues.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, that would be a very time consuming. Yeah, that's a lot of different things.
I think you should do another showcase in honor of Pam and make it a sports issue.
Sports
showcase.
Just all NFL Pro.
Well, all
NFL Pro and Sports Master.
Strange sports stories.
Yeah,
DC did, and then they even did a 7-issue run of that where it reprinted what was in the Brave and the Bold strange sports stories and as 20 centers. Still working on getting all those, but yeah, for Pam would love the sports ones.
Well, like I said, you could you could do NFL Super Pro. You could do. I'm sure you have the complete run.
I do not. I have the first issue, or the square bound issue, and then I have the Spider-Man issue.
And I think that was the first issue.
Okay,
that was Marvel's deal. Like, put Spidey in the first issue, people will buy it.
Okay.
You could do issues featuring Sportsmaster.
Good.
Casey Jones. Trying to think of other sports-related characters.
Don't have a lot of turtle stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, Dan, do you want to introduce that guy next to you then?
Why not?
I mean, I don't think he needs an introduction. We all know who he is. We're sitting here talking about the massive, epic collection that he's got. You know, at any point he could just reach over and just like, oh, Fantastic Four 1, bam. Oh, Hulk 1, you know, bam. Oh, check this out. Oh, first Daredevil. How about the first 10?
Let's see if I can do that. Let's see. I don't know.
Uh-oh. And there he goes.
What do we have here?
Oh, Pam says she actually just picked up Strange Sports #1.
Oh, good for her. Good job, Pam.
Look at you, Pam. We've converted you to a sports person.
Yeah.
You know,
when they throw the ball.
It's not that easy to just come out and just throw out books.
Yeah.
You know, they just might be laying around.
This might be hanging out.
This just might be hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got those Capitals books that Sal got us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
When he was tackling people at the Caps game and taking them. Give me that.
Oh, well, yeah.
He was checking them into the boards.
That's right. That's right. No, I was on the concourse level. I was knocking over old ladies, small kids. Didn't matter.
Well, you know, they shouldn't have laced it up in your proximity if they weren't going to fight for it.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes you just got to drop the mitts, baby.
Got to drop the mitts. Well, that's better than dropping the trousers. So
That's what he does too when he's in the concession line and they yell out, "We only got one more pizza left," and he's like, "Get out of my way!" and just starts knocking people down.
Wow. Damn, Sal, that's
all right, Gary. What about you? Where they can find you?
Where they can find me? They can find me at Comic Logic. We are Loudoun County, Virginia's only comic book store. We are always ready to have you come by and see our store and be a part of it. We would love to make your acquaintance. You can catch me, Mighty Mike Harbor, in that store every Wednesday, like we were yesterday, getting our weekly fix of comics, getting it right into the bloodstream, baby. Reading comic books make you strong, baby, because you start out with one book, then you got stack, you got short box, and you got a long box. Next thing you know, you are stacking them to the ceiling, baby. And once you do that, you are jacked and you are packed, baby. Also do some push-ups. That helps. So there you go. Reading comic books make you strong. Remember that. But come see us. We would love to see you in Northern Virginia at Comic Logic. Also, look for us on the Comic Character of the Day. Dan Kelly is killing it on that site. He's always got great characters, great panels of the day. And good job. I'm glad you were there, Adam. And today was Kamandi, and I ran short of time because I had Chris Schwartzlander over here today, Andrew Clem over here today, who was the guy that did that great picture of the More Fun comics for me. And Mike Harbor was here for a while. We were hanging out looking at books. So I did not Mighty Mike. I did not get to post a cover. I was going to do Kamandi 2, which was a cool cover. So look it up. It's fun. And But we had Talking Geek took care of it and took a great cover of Kamandi and Prince Tufton. That was on the part of the Kamandi Challenge. So that was a great cover. So good job on him. Good job on Dan for always having great content on there. So he's doing a yeoman's job on it. So good on Dan. And what more can I say? Check it out. And much love to Archduke Kevy, who founded that site. And much love to the fella in the room with the pretty lights behind him, our master builder, Mr. J Dub. He's in a new location.
Hey, Liz.
He's in a new location. He's got a new vocation, and he is walking forward through life with his eyes wide open. His stride is mighty, and he is facing forward into the future with a positive attitude and a warrior's heart. And he is rising like a phoenix from the ashes, and he will make this station bigger, better, brighter than it's ever been through his newfound determination. Master Builder, J Dub.
Thank you for that. I told you, don't make me cry on this. It's not cool. No. No, but you guys know the drill. You'll find us at thecodexstation.com. One-stop shop for everything Codex. Get some merch, meet the team, let us know what you like and don't like, and you can find us on all the
socials, and on days like this, when I tell you that we're positively dripping, when it's this hot, it's sweating out of our pores. All the socials just sweating out of it. We have every single one of them just dripping down our faces, and we would love nothing more than to infect you and give them to you, baby. Hit that button.
We need some more. We need some new T-shirts. I'm just gonna say, there's a pretty great.
Oh, we do. We got a couple.
Very design.
Trust me, I'm
Pretty great.
happy that I can start doing them.
And I know that Sal's wife and daughter would happily sport those shirts.
Was that Sal's design?
Yeah, that's the slab fairy design.
The cherub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Thanks, buddy.
With the 9.8 Venom slab.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't go wrong with a 9.8.
Can't go wrong with the Sal fairy.
That's also true.
Yes.
That's
Now,
true.
spread your wings and fly, my friend.
You just got to be careful because, like, where the Tooth Fairy will leave $1 under your pillow,
Sal will take your comics.
yeah, he'll take your comic
And leave you a meatball under your pillow.
Yeah, and he'll leave a meatball there, and then what happens is you end up with smashed meat, and you just end up with marinara sauce all over your pillowcase and your sheets and everything. And
You lost me at smashed meat. I'm a little squeamish now.
Oh, don't bring back the memories.
Oh, what did we find out yesterday? That Codex Station, what is it? We support all kink, or we don't kink shame, and then it was the place for kink or something like that.
Yeah.
We had
I was dying.
Yeah, we don't kink shame on the Codex Station.
That's right.
Oh God, I guess
This was not a vacation, Adam. This was not a vacation.
This is a working trip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was a working trip. That's why all the photos I got sent from Sal were him on the beach. Current view.
He's scouting.
I'm allowed to take a break.
Yeah, you are.
Sal's another guy, better man than I am. I got there and looked at this and been like rolling up this Home Depot, 7-Eleven, like, I need two. Come on.
Yep.
The only difference is, it's going to come the end of the day, and instead of trying to pay him and, they're going to be like, where's our money? Sal's just going to be trying to pay him and, in slab comics. I'm like, what the hell is this?
No, I'll pay him a meatball sub.
Sal is not paying anybody with slab comics.
No.
Sal, those comics, no.
No.
That ain't happening. No, not going to happen.
Sal says negative, sir.
That is
negative Ghost Rider, right?
He's got a stack
right.
of the Battle Beast #1 A covers, right? 9.8. He's trying to pay him in that.
Yeah.
Well,
Battle
they take
Beast.
him. If they take him, that's all there. It's on them. All right, then. Are we ready to go ahead and kick off the show?
Yeah.
All right. I got a super cool intro for you, Gary. I hope you approve of this one. Since this was
All
your-
right. See if the world after disaster would appreciate it.
All right. Let's see. All right, folks. We will see you back here in about a minute.
All right.
In a world drowned by disaster, where beasts rule and mankind is nearly lost, one boy dares to survive. This is Kamandi, the last boy on Earth.
he put the maps up.
Why do I feel like I just got out of a Sega Genesis intro?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. He put the maps up.
Gotta have maps.
Gotta have
Maps. Gotta have the maps. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Codex Station. It's Comic Character of the Week, and as you can tell from the intro, our special character of the night is Kamandi, the last boy on Earth. This was an Uncle Gary pick, so we're going to talk about him, and he's going to probably go into much depth on him alone. All right, so let's go ahead and kick this sucker off. Dan, why don't you go ahead and give us the intro?
It was good, Seth.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam.
All right. Well, he first appeared in Kamandi #1 in October 1972, created by the king himself, Jack Kirby. What do you have, Jack Kirby in the corner? What are you going to get?
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go grab all of Jack Kirby's.
Yeah,
He's got to run and get the Jack Kirby.
he's going to come out with a little plastic case, and it's going to. Oh, there we go.
There it is.
I was going to say he's going to come out with a little plastic case, and he's going to be like, here's one of Jack Kirby's pinky bones. I got this from Damien. He got a great deal on it.
Well, I do have Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos #2 signed by Jack Kirby.
Oh,
Ooh, how about that?
Anyways, he created this because DC was trying to get Carmine Infantino wanted to get the rights to Planet of the Apes, and Marvel got the rights. So he went to Kirby, who was at DC at the time, and said, hey, why don't you kind of create this? Kirby knew what Planet of the Apes was. He hadn't seen the movie. And then he had this other, so he kind of took that idea and then had this other comic strip idea that he had thought of years before called Kamandi of the Cave, and combined them to create Kamandi. So the story of him is he is a teenage boy living in the future, in a future Earth, after something called the Great Disaster. And that's why they'll call it Earth AD for after disaster.
Yep.
And the Great Disaster was an event that destroyed civilization all over Earth. And the combination of radiation and a chemical, an intelligence-enhancing chemical or drug called cortexin, caused the humans to lose their intelligence and caused the animals to gain intelligence and kind of become anthropomorphic. And Kamandi says, teenage boy. I don't think they ever really establish an age, just kind of generally teenage boy.
I think you think 15 or 16.
Yeah. So he's living in Command Bunker D, hence Kamandi, with his grandfather, and they're the last survivors of their outpost. Some wolves break in to try and loot the place and kill his grandfather, and Kamandi then sets out on his own to find any other surviving human outposts, find his parents, and adventure ensues. As far as powers, abilities go, he's just he's a mid-teenage kid. He's in good shape. He's intelligent compared to what everyone else in the world is. But there's no superpowers. There's no trained in the martial arts, expert marksman. He's just a kid out there trying to survive.
He's a scrapper.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. All right. So let's go ahead then and move on to what works best with this character. And since Uncle Gary, this is your pick of the week, why don't you go first?
All right. Well, this character, what I love is his grandfather was Buddy Blank, who was also OMAC.
Yes.
So hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Chris just made it
Hey,
home.
buddy.
Chris, I'm sitting here looking at chat. So Chris left his hat here, which is a big deal because Chris
Wow. He
left,
left his hat down?
left his hat here. And I said, I'm going to try not to wear it. He says I can wear it, but I have to be naked. So I said, don't tempt me because I may wear it on my ass.
I was going to say, be like, all right, but I didn't say where I was going to wear it.
Woo, what you spinning that hat on?
And yeah, you're right. The Buddy Blank thing. And,
Yep.
there's all kinds of stuff that comes out after, later about like his lineage and then what.
And Buddy Blank is another
do.
Kirby creation. I don't know. Should I give it away? Should we not say it?
No, go ahead.
OMAC, the one-man Army Corps, was his uncle. And in the command bunker, where humanity has regressed, Kamandi intelligence is there because his uncle trained him and kept him, trained him, and he educated him. And the best way for me to describe, I miss my hat. Yeah, I know you do. Kamandi is basically, the whole story is basically the Planet of the Apes on steroids.
Yeah.
What it is, because it's not just the apes that have gained intelligence. The bears are rangers. The tigers are like the ancient Romans, and Caesar is their leader. The gorillas and the tigers are always at it. There's lions that are roaming. They're like, they're there. New York is infested with rats. There are places in South America, the tracking site, where bats are there. There's a leopards are pirates. There's a department store in Florida run by a snake named Sacker. It's just so cool. All the animals. There's even later in the series, there's a group of cats that are running catnip. That's illegal. So they have a catnip operation where they're running illegal catnip. So it's just.
Gary, should I throw that map up again to show that what
Sure,
all the regions are?
Show the map up. It's so cool. So I'm always a sucker for maps. So you have, and you got the radiation area in Canada where they don't know what's up there. There's a giant insect, dominions of the devils, and the devils are giant insects. And you just have, look, orangutans, surfing civilization. I don't know that we ever got to them, but the gorilla, you have the wolves. It's just awesome, inventive things. So it's just Kirby at his wildest creating this world. And, like I said, Planet of the Apes is a great, cool concept. But to take it to all these other animals that are running rampant is pretty cool. So Kamandi, he is the hope for humanity. So for many years, and things have been retconned, so I don't know exactly where things stand now, but for many years, Kamandi is the future of the DC universe as we know it, with Batman, Superman. The great disaster happens, and Kamandi is pretty much mankind's last hope to try to rally humans, the human race, who are called animals by all the animals now, call the humans animals, and they're just cattle. And Kamandi is the hope. Sonny, it's so cool, and it's my favorite Kirby work. So I know Kirby is revered for FF and for Challengers and for Thor and all these other things. Kamandi is my favorite work. I love it. It's dynamic, and I just I just think it is wildly magnificent.
I mean, if that's Sonny's kink, so
well, there you go, Sonny. Sonny's kink, and we don't kink shame, right, Sonny? And so he is the bridge between that civilization of Gotham and Metropolis and the Earth after disaster, and then the future in the 30th century. That's right, Sonny, of the Legion of Superheroes. So Kamandi has spearheaded the revitalization of humanity, and that's a heavy burden that he has now. He's not necessarily. He's just trying to survive, and he's trying to help his species. But I don't think he has any idea of what it's gonna it'll turn into the future world of the Legion, and he's going to get things righted. He's just trying to survive every day, and he's a scrapper. He's a tough SOB, and he does not take any shit either.
Right.
He will go off in a second against these animals that these creatures that are bigger and more powerful. Thank you, Pam. I'm glad we're on the same page. I really appreciate that. He does not take any crap off these characters that are stronger than he is, have more natural ability like claws and teeth and fangs and all that. He just, he will not suffer any shit, and he'll also do that to his own species. So where there are humans that are not acting in the way they should, or bullies or whatever, he will beat them down in a second. So he is. He doesn't back down for shit. So I just love the attitude, and I love the adventure of it, that he's the last boy on Earth. And I just love this work of Kirby. I own 2 artist editions the big artist edition books of the scans of the original pages of this work from Kirby, and it's just it's dynamic, it's magnificent, and if you like Kirby, I don't know how you couldn't like this series.
Very true. Very true. All right, Jamie, how about you? What do you like best?
Oh, well, kind of stemming off what Uncle Gary had said, just that human element, that scrappiness. Like, Kamandi isn't Superman. Like, he is vulnerable. He survives with his guts, not a godhood behind him.
Yeah. He's clever too. He's very clever.
He works best as a resourceful underdog that's brave and more clever than the rest. And, stubborn in the face of like those overwhelming odds. That makes like his victories and his losses that much more tragic to me. Mm-hmm. And he's the audience's eye in like the world gone mad.
I'm up for that, Tommy. Yeah, I agree.
Very cool. All right, Dan, how about you? Why don't you go next?
I like the scenario where he's never, he's not in one place. He's always off on some different adventure with someone else. He does meet up with Ben Boxer and the guys that are with him, and occasionally he's with them. Occasionally, he's got different some of these different animals that he becomes friends with. Like from the tigers and
Tufton, Prince Tufton,
and
Dr. Canius,
the doc, and and he's going around always searching, and he'll come across these same people occasionally, but he's it's not like it's like, remember Walking Dead, the TV show, when it started, and they were constantly moving. It's that it never it doesn't really get to the point where he's like, oh, we're here now, and I'm just gonna be here for 30 issues. So I like that he's constantly on the move doing that. And then all the stuff that they, wasn't originally revealed, but that, they've, built on over the years. Like you said, his ties to OMAC, his tie, when they revealed that he, kind of went, that he travels back in time under under an alias is the one that starts Checkmate.
Yes.
And, and it's weird to say it because the premise itself is kind of wild. It's like this planet, like you said, this Planet of the Apes thing where, it's all these anthropomorphic animals and the humans are de-evolved. But with that said, like, as the series went on, especially after Kirby left, like, it got really wild with some of the stuff that they would do.
Yeah.
And then some of these other things where they would have him show up, and they haven't really done much with him. They haven't done much in a long time.
Didn't they just have him in Justice League Unlimited?
Well, he appeared like in a couple pages of a Superman Batman issue. He was in, like showed up in a little bit in Infinite Frontier. They dealt with some stuff in like in Countdown to Final Crisis. And Final Crisis, they did a lot of stuff that teased, Kamandi, for the future and all that. But as far as, outside of the Kamandi challenge, they haven't really done a whole lot with him in a long time.
Yeah, there was that recent miniseries where they came up and you didn't know who he was, and they revealed that this character wasn't that Kamandi. And that was Infinite something or other, but it was in the past 3 or 4 years, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was Infinite Frontier, right? Because that's when they, he went back and established Checkmate.
Yeah, that's when they revealed it. So that was the most they had really done with him.
Yeah. But even that was, what was that, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, and even so, you really didn't know it was Kamandi. I think I knew earlier, but it wasn't revealed it was Kamandi till the end to everybody. So you really didn't get a huge dose of it, of who he was, until they revealed it at the end.
Okay. All right, very cool. For me, you guys pretty much hit a lot of points I was going to go over, but I got to go over just one. I'll reiterate one of them was he's a scrapper. He's clever, and he works best when he's exploring the world, and he is, he's exploring the world with defiance and curiosity, And that's what I love best about the stories. It was and like Dan said, he was always going to something else, going here, going there, always going around. I like that. That was pretty cool. I mean, there was never like a same flavor type of situation. And so I think he worked best doing that. So
it's like Roy Kent. He's here, he's there, he's every effing where.
Well, and you get to explore all the areas on the map, right?
Right.
Over the place.
And who doesn't love maps?
Who doesn't love maps? I mean.
All right, then. Let's go ahead and jump to badass moments. Jamie, do you want to kick us off with badass moments?
Yeah, I could definitely do that. So first one I got is from Kamandi, The Last Boy on Earth #2, fighting a giant gorilla barehanded.
Yeah.
So Kamandi squares off against this hulking gladiator gorilla in a coliseum run by intelligent animal overlords, which I just think's badass in itself. Kamandi squares off, or he armed with nothing but desperation, sheer will, and he takes on this beast just easily. It's 4 times his size. He's dodging, outsmarting, and going full primal. Basically, it's just he's a teenager from a dead world, and he's tossed into an arena as an entertainment style, amusement, and he refuses to die for anyone else's.
It's David versus Goliath too.
Yeah, it epic. Next one I have is from the same series, but issue 32, stealing an atomic warhead to bargain for his friends. Kamandi sneaks into a high security vault, steals an active atomic warhead, and threatens to detonate it if a group of mutated humans aren't released. It was bold and risky and completely, to me, insane. But it works. He turns the deadliest weapon of the past into leverage for his present, knowing full well it could kill everybody, including himself, but saving the lives of the ones that matters most to him. And then my last one comes from Kamandi Challenge. This is issue 9. Taming a wild mutant tiger with empathy. Trapped in a cave with a feral mutated tiger that's more beast than man. Kamandi does the unthinkable, and he just refuses to fight. Instead, he talks down the creature, risking his own life to remind the beast of his own dignity and history. In a comic full of chaos and violence, Kamandi chooses empathy as his weapon, and it works for him. The tiger lowers his claws and becomes an ally, and reminds us Kamandi's real power isn't violence, it's hope.
I like that.
That was good. That one was on my list of possible badass moments as well. So very cool. Very cool. I'll go next with this one then. Right. So the opening line, it's not so much a badass moment, it's a badass epic line. He comes off and he goes, "My name is Kamandi. I'm the last boy on Earth." And it's just like a perfect opening line that sets the tone, for the whole story. And he's not a fighter because he wants to be. He's a fighter because the world demands it. No, like we said before, no powers, no team. He's just a boy with heart, guts, and the instinct to survive. And he stands up for what's right. So that opening sequence was just pretty badass for me. Another one I have is from Kamandi Challenge #6. Similar to Jamie, but with the taming of the tiger, but a little bit different. He actually gets dragged underwater, and it's into an arena where it's ruled by hyper-evolved shark men. So every animal every species on Earth seems to be mutated into a higher, life form, you might say. And so it's pretty awesome. But this one, he's he fights Sharkman, and despite no armor or weapons, he goes full savage mode on him, and he's broken tech, he's raw instinct, and he just wins the fight. It's a brutal test, I think, and it's a showcase of his fight or die nature. I love that one. That was Kamandi Challenge #6. My last one here, which I will do because Jamie took that one with the Kamandi 32. I have the 34. So I will go with Kamandi 13. After being hunted, he flips the script and actually takes command of a mutated wolf pack. So he earns their respect through sheer fearlessness and instincts and becomes a temporary alpha to a mutated wolf pack. which I happen to like. That's pretty badass for me right there and there. But the last boy suddenly felt like he was king of the wild. And that line right there was just like, ooh, that felt like epic line right there for me. So those are my three. Dan, how about you? Why don't you go next?
All right. Yeah, Jamie kind of took the one of the ones I had where he's fighting the gorilla and he he beats him.
That was good.
So I'll go Kamandi issue 6. I like that there was getting ready to be this big battle between the gorillas and the tigers.
Yeah.
Kamandi's like, oh, I can't let this happen. And it was in Vegas, and there was an old slot machine there, and he convinces them that instead of fighting, that they settle it through the slot machine. And the and the first one goes, puts their coin in. I can't remember. I think he got like 3 cherries or something.
Yeah, the gorilla got 3 cherries.
Yeah. And then, then the tiger, and he had to put the coin in first and show him that it worked. Then the tiger goes and he puts it in, and it's like, cherry lime or something like that. And he's, and he's like, oh, I didn't win. Like, it's like, we will abide by the machine. And I thought that was, like you said, he's clever, pretty smart thinking in a way to, avoid this giant bloody battle between the two of them by just 3 coins on a slot machine.
That was one of mine too, Dan. And what was really cool about it was you're thinking, well, why are these animals listening to him? The reason is because he can talk and articulate and all. He's a rarity, and that he's almost got like this kind of mystical pet kind of status. And so that's why they listened to him on that. And it was going to be a bloodbath between the gorillas and the tigers. And nobody was happy. They knew it was going to be a bloodbath. So he was giving them an out, and they took it.
Yeah, because they were fighting over who was going to get the territory.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like kind of like almost the opposite of Shazam. When you see Talkie Tawny come in, it's like, oh, there's a big talking tiger, and he's wearing a suit. Like, you should probably listen to what he has to say, because how often are you going to see that?
Here's a stupid animal that can talk, right? And
the next one I have is Kamandi Challenge number 4, that he escapes this giant tiger god machine by flying out of it in a fighter jet.
That was cool.
And it's like, man, that's just badass.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm going to escape this giant, huge robot. I'm just going to fly out of it with a fighter jet. Like, oh, okay. And then the last one I got, it's my favorite one. It's from Kamandi Challenge 10, when he teamed up with a bunch of gun-toting sharks to kill all of these robots. I liked it so much, I had to put the graphic in here for everybody to see.
Yeah. Great.
He fought the street sharks.
I mean, how badass is, today you ride with the sharks. Yeah. It's just like, oh yeah, machine guns, automatic weapons with these sharks that have rocket packs. You see the one that's got like the heart tattoo with the air going through, the one with the little bomb tattoo on his shoulder. And they're just, and they're just fighting and killing all of these robots with machine guns and rocket packs. And it's like, man, you want to talk about badass? What's more badass than that? And then when they tell them too, like, because one of the sharks wanted to eat him, and the other one's like, no, he fought with us, because you keep seeing him go like blood, and the other shark go, no, he helped us. And then later on in the issue, when he's trying to get up into the command center of this flying base, and the one shark gives him his rocket pack because he's getting ready to die, and gives it to him, is like, we were right not to eat you.
Yeah.
You know what would have been the best thing ever in that panel? Would have been if you just had Aquaman's head like popped out going, nope, it ain't going back down.
What's going on here?
Yes. I can't talk to these ones.
But yeah, that's kind of thinking like almost like Dr. Evil, like it's want sharks with freaking laser beams on their head. Well, we can't do that, Dr. Evil, but how about anthropomorphic sharks with submachine guns
and tattoos?
Yeah, and tattoos.
Very good. Very good.
What was great about the Kamandi Challenge was it took all the craziness of the Kamandi series to another level.
Yeah.
And that book, I know we'll talk about it in Must Read, but that book was done in such a cool format where it had
Oh, yeah.
different creators, and each creator was supposed to craft a cliffhanger ending, and the next creative team had to come up with a way out of it. And then in the next issue's letter column, the first creator that put the cliffhanger on was giving how he would have gotten out of the cliffhanger. So it's just really, really inventive. And the people that did this series, you see how much they respected and loved this work, because they were clamoring to do these issues, which was really cool. So.
Well, because was it Paul Levitz, right? That was the one that did it, who had said, we haven't done anything with Kamandi in a while. And it's not because there's no interest in it. It's because we have all these creators coming with different pitches, and we decided, let's
give them all a shot.
Yeah. He's like, let's do all of them and do it like they did that old in the 80s, that DC challenge.
Yeah. And Len Wein, I think he had just finished his segment, and he was going to write a letter column, or he was going to do something for the project. He passed away right before, and that was kind of sad. But
he was going to write the afterword.
Yeah, he's going to write the afterword. So, but yeah, good, Dan. Those are great ones. The shark one was, and you know what? It's ridiculous. It's over the top, but you know what? Comics can be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Comics
it worked.
Yes, it was cool as shit. It was awesome.
It worked. Definitely.
I'm kind of getting from this. I think you all enjoyed Kamandi. So
yeah, definitely.
Definitely gonna be hunting down some issues.
Had any of you ever read any of them before?
Not before this.
No.
You said you had or hadn't?
No.
Dan, had you read any?
I had not read a lot, but I had read some. I hadn't read the Kamandi challenge. I had read some of the original Kamandi
Kirby
series, and I had seen the animated short.
And that was really well done. The animated short comes from one of my recommended readings, number 29. Yeah. So, and that's so on my badass moments, part of it, one of them is from Kamandi 29. It's the legend, and then there's these apes. These apes have Superman's suit, and the legend is that the legend will come back for this suit. And to get this suit, you have to you have to fly. You have to move this giant boulder, which they call the Daily Planet, and you have to do these feats of strength. You have to be bulletproof, and Kamandi is not going to let this ape, I think Zebu or something like that, he's not going to let this ape get the suit, and he gets, Ben Boxer, who was going to be the challenger against the ape, he gets taken out at one point. And Ben Boxer is there's a few human mutants, Ben Boxer, Steve, and Renzi's other one, but they touch a cyclotron on their chest and they turn to steel, so they're mutants. And you have a short, Pam. The short is fantastic, done in the Kirby style. And
you know who did the voice of Kamandi, right?
Tell me.
It's Dominic Monaghan. He was in Shameless, but he's also the one that played the kind of prototype Joker character in Gotham.
Oh, okay, that's him. Okay, gotcha. Very cool. Didn't realize that was Kamandi, but it's just so well done. But he's not going to let this ape get Superman's suit, because he knows that suit belongs to Superman. He's going to come back and get it one day, and that ape can't have it. And he's outclassed again. He's outclassed. He doesn't care. And they also, you don't spit on Superman's cape. Well, you don't stand on his cape either, because Kamandi grabs the suit and rips it from underneath the ape, and it sends the ape toppling backwards into lava, and he's done. So that was it. So Kamandi, you'll stand on Superman's cape, baby.
Well, they had that issue of Superman that tied into that showed how the suit got there.
Yeah. Was that at World's End that they did that?
It was wait a minute, I got it here. It was in
because there was a Superman at World's End, or a Kamandi at World's End, that had
Superman 295.
Okay, where a Superman did come from the future and all bearded and all that.
Yeah.
So that's one. I was going to use the one where Kamandi averted this battle by bringing out a one-armed bandit, the old slot machine, which was great. And Caesar, great Caesar, who was the head of the Lions, he told Kamandi, he goes, he had Kamandi as this exotic pet. Because you have cost me so much with kind of your stupid game. I just want you out of my sight. What do I need? And Kamandi's like, oh, just give me a vehicle I can travel with, and I'll take the girl, which was Flower, and off they went. So I love that. I love the thing with Superman. And then in Kamandi, was it 12? He's he also saves his rage for humans, and Flower dies, and later on he meets Flower's sister Spirit, and she is part of the cattle that Sacker has. And Sacker, who's a snake that runs this department store, he doesn't treat the humans as bad as most do, where he will educate them some, he will feed them, but they are subservient to him. And he has a racing track at Hialeah, and these jockeys are on these Bull Bantam rides a bull, and he is just the number one jockey / gladiator that they have. Money's bet on him. And Bull, the reason that Flower ran away from Sacker was because Bull wanted her and beat her. And so when Kamandi finds out all this, he's not happy with this guy either. And Bull grabs Kamandi by the hair. And Bull says, I'll show you who the top Sacker property is here. I lead, you follow. And so he's got Kamandi. Let's see, do we have by his hair? He's got Kamandi by his hair there. And Kamandi says, you got the wrong boy, Bull. Now get your hands out of my hair. And he grabs a pot. And he says, mister, if you want your knuckles cracked, I'll be glad to oblige. Cracks his hand. And then he says, oh, let's not neglect your head. And smashes him upside the head with the pan. Let's not neglect your head. And then, in fact, you got a few more clouds coming to you, mister. This is for Flower. Get up, Bull. See if you can beat a man instead of a young girl, you coward. So that was just great. So I just love his rage. And he's not taking any shit from humans or animals. And at one point, as a bonus one, there's an animal that is walking a pampered human on a leash, and Kamandi goes up and slugs this human, calling him a sellout. And how can you trade dignity for this? So he just does not. He's got a short fuse. Kamandi does. So, but I just love it. I love how he beat the hell out of the bully Bull Bantam. So just fun stuff. So those are my few, and there's many. Every one y'all said was, magnificent. and he does something badass every issue.
Every issue there's like a badass
every issue moment. He's done something that is just badass. So there are hundreds.
You think at some point he'd find a shirt to wear?
Well, I know it's part of the, and it's kind of like a Tarzan.
I know you have, Chris.
Yeah.
To the bathroom? Come on, your time's up.
Yeah.
All right, then. Let's go ahead and then jump to stuff that we do not like about Kamandi. I'll go first on this one. I don't have too much. When they kind of get away from the exploring and the, part of him being, going around from place to place to place, and I didn't like that much, but I couldn't really find fault in it. So I really don't have much that I don't like about him. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I wanted to stick with the boy exploring and attitude of that more so than anything else. Dan, how about you?
Yeah. I was just getting ready to put that.
Yeah, that's right, Sonny. And Kamandi's a great world where the women walk around topless. I mean,
there you go. That's like, you can't find fault in that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
He is clever. He seems to get captured an awful lot, a lot. He might be clever in ways to escape, but he's not real clever in ways to keep from getting captured. And because every issue you're like, God, come on, man. Like, so I guess if you want to nitpick, there's that. Early on in it, it keeps making a big deal about the animals, like, oh my God, he can talk. But then a lot of these humans that he meets up with, they can all talk too. And they might not be as eloquent in the way they speak, but like he has pseudo kind of conversation with them. Like it's not like they're just saying, one word things, like they're saying short phrases. They could talk, they can communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and later on they, it's more of like wild humans, but I felt like, if he's supposed to be the last boy on earth and he's such an oddity that they're like, oh my God, he could talk and we could communicate with him. You shouldn't have any of these other humans, that are just like the, basically like the cattle, the wild animals. You shouldn't have any of them be able to talk outside of maybe going like rock or stick or something. And, outside of like Ben Boxer and those guys. But so I thought that kind of took away from it a little bit for me. And then just the kind of general, why don't you do anything with this character? The Kamandi challenge. I mean, even that was almost 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And he shows up a little bit here. It's almost like one of those things where, like when he showed up in that issue of Superman and Batman, he's there for like 2 pages that, it's like Mark Waid going, oh, I really like this character. Let me find some way to get him in here. But, it seems like it's like that, or Infinite Frontier. Oh, we'll have it turn out to be Kamandi in this thing. But like nobody ever uses him substantially. Like, just give us a mini series, or, I mean, hell, Cartoon Network, was it in 2010 or 2011 was like this close to making a Kamandi animated series that Evan Dorkin was going to make. And apparently, what?
That would have been good.
Yeah, and he put a lot of work into it too, and then it just, didn't happen. But I'd like to see more of the character.
Okay, very good. All right, Jamie, how about you?
So it comes down to more like when the writers forget what makes Kamandi this like unique to his world. Like his innocence, his desperation. He isn't just another loincloth wearing like jungle hero. Like remove the post-human tragedy and strip the soul out of the character. He's not Conan. He's not Tarzan. Like when he's just punching things with no depth, it just hollows out the character for me. Like you look at like even the characters I just said, Tarzan, for example, like this is not Tarzan. Don't write him like he's Tarzan. Like he's not going foot gliding through trees. He's literally doing more than that. And I hate the fact that you take this character and box him into that category.
Fair. That's a good point. All right, Uncle Gary, how about you?
Mainly it's the lack of use. I think this is a wild character with wild concepts, and I think it's a damn shame that nobody's doing anything with it. I mean, just Kirby created such a wild universe here, and to not do anything with it. I mean, my God, look how often Darkseid is used, and some of the New Gods stuff, and Orion is used, and these great worlds that he created. Why the heck aren't we using Kamandi? And with Kamandi, you can tie in OMAC and use that more too. I just think it's a waste of a really fantastic wild.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, that they and the like you said with OMAC and the Adult Swim show, the Cartoon Network show, like they had permission from DC where they could use OMAC, they could use Brother Eye, like so they would be able to. It wasn't like, oh, we can't incorporate all this. They were going to be able to throw all of this stuff in, and then because you could tie him to, like I said, OMAC with all that, with Brother Eye, then you tying him to Batman.
Oh yeah, the Brave and the Bold issues were a lot of fun, and he was also on the Brave and the Bold animated show.
Yes,
yeah,
he had a Brave and the Bold appearance there. So my criticism is just the lack of use of this really cool character. And Jamie's right; he's not Tarzan. He's not Tarzan. He's not in a loincloth. He's in cut off jeans. That's right. And it's just
He's got jorts.
You got jorts. That's right.
I was just thinking that jorts.
You got jorts.
Just like Brett Favre wore when he got drafted.
There you go.
That's right. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to top covers. Let's see, Dan, I got you queued up first. You want to go?
Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
Oh boy.
All right,
Oh,
so
Dan,
all
had
the way
a
on the
theme.
left.
I like the theme, Dan.
Yeah. So all the way on the left, Kamandi #1. I mean, that's just a classic cover. Gorgeous Kirby cover. And then, the second one and third one kind of have the same thing where it's incorporating the name and the logo into it, which I always think is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But especially the middle one, the Dan Jurgens one, because from Kamandi Challenge, because each issue of Kamandi Challenge had 2 covers, and I just thought this one was awesome. The way that they had the logo, behind it, with the water hitting the rocks like that, and him standing there with his gun, and then the countdown special, which that was it was just a reprint of older issues, but still that awesome cover of him kneeling down on the logo of his name, and then the Statue of Liberty in the background and all that. Just
So good.
really cool.
And again, the Kamandi Challenge with Daisy Dukes. There you go. It was commemorating the 100th anniversary of the birth of Kirby.
Yeah.
Yep. And the one on the left is one of the most iconic
Yeah.
comic covers there is. So I mean that's way up there.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I do have that litho. And we forgot to give the one to Mike when I'll get it to him. So yeah, I love the theme. I love the theme of this.
Very cool. All right. Let's see. Gary, I got yours queued up next. You ready to go?
Yep, absolutely. And so let me say for sure that one with #1 would have been on mine, but since it was being used, I wanted to give better diversity. So the one on the left is Kamandi Challenge. It's cover B, number 12, and I like that because it's Ryan Sook, and I just that issue with him sitting on Lincoln's shoulder in the Lincoln Memorial, and it's got pot marked with all the bullets on it. And he's got a smoking gun, and he's just taking a brief respite. He's been using the gun, and he's been in a fight with it, and just you get the exhaustion and the weariness. Just him and his, just kind of collapsed there for a second, and he's just got this crusade, to keep humanity alive and to keep it moving forward. And it's a lot of weight on this teenager's shoulders. And I think that shows it a lot. That shows the dire nature of his plight every day. Every day is a fight for survival, not just for him, but for the human race.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that image really conveys that. The one in the center is Kamandi 29. And then one of the really cool things about all these Kirby issues were the headings. When the great disaster had destroyed all else, his name was still alive, the legend. And I believe it was in 28 where there were bulldogs riding into a battle. And it said, and it had a Gunga Din takeoff where Kamandi was like Gunga Din. And it said, into the valley of death rode the 600 bulldogs, dying like men. I just thought that was so cool. And every issue had a tagline like that phrase above Kamandi. So just so freaking cool. But there it is. There's the suit. There he's battling that gorilla that he will not let earn that suit of the legend. So, just Kirby goodness right there. And the one on the right, you talk about a trippy issue. This was, how Batman traveled back in the past was kind of a wild concept. But once he got there, it was really cool. It's Brave and the Bold, 120, Batman and Kamandi. And there they are at Mount Rushmore. The gorillas have Batman tied up and are dragging him. And he's called Captain Bat in there. They think he's some kind of bat mutant hybrid. And there's Kamandi on horseback. And I think I don't know that there are any issues where the horses talk. So I guess the horses never evolved.
Yeah, the horses are just horses.
Yeah, they're just horses. They're just
Well, horse is a horse, of course.
Of course. Wilbur. So Commandy's got the knife, and he's gonna work to cut Batman loose while he's being while he's been kind of love the hair flying, in the wind with his hair and the mane of the horse. And I just think that's a very, very dynamic Jim Aparo cover.
Yeah.
Got a little Aparo, man.
Yeah, so trippy. And then later on, I think issue 157 of Brave and the Bold, Kamandi shows up in Gotham in Batman's time. So
and look at the top of the issue where it's got Batman's head and Kamandi's looking expression on Kamandi's face.
Well, and the Kamandi image is Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
The Batman image is Neil Adams.
Yeah.
They used the stock floating heads that they had there. But I just think
Old in general had some pretty wild stuff, that they would put in there to find a way to pair Batman up with some of these characters.
Okay, so and it wasn't in continuity.
Yeah.
So the Brave and the Bold stuff is called the Haney-verse because Bob Haney was the writer, and so stuff had no continuity. You don't know if it's Earth 1, Earth 2, or what the hell it is. It's the Haney-verse, and you go with that. And there's some really great stories in the Brave and the Bold. Chris had gotten a lot of the Brave and the Bold that had the Earth 2 characters in it. And over the course of the past couple of weeks, I have talked him into collecting all the Brave and the Bold team-up issues that started at issue 50 and went through issue 200 where it ended. So Chris is on a great quest to get all the Brave and the Bolds. I don't think he has this one. Yeah, and the other cool thing about Aparo, he was a one-stop shop. Jim Aparo on Brave and the Bold during his heyday here was penciling it, inking it, and lettering it. That's pretty impressive.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Kirby on Kamandi. He was he wrote it, he drew it, he edited it, and then he had another guy that
Mike Royer
that inked it and lettered it.
Yep.
It was like, all right, it's just the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a Haney and Aparo show, and I guess they had a different color. They had a colorist, I guess, but still pretty badass stuff. And I just think that cover is so dynamic. So that's my Jim Aparo, my Brave and the Bold rant. So thank you.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie, I've got yours ready. Ready to talk about yours?
No. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. But go ahead anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, here you go.
Yeah, I like the Tim one. Good job.
Yeah. So the first one to the left, I've got Kamandi, the last boy on Earth, 14. It's Kirby, baby. Like it's wild, and there's every time you look, you see something different in this. Just him just flying over this buggy's riding into battle.
Let's clip back.
Yeah, but it's, how can I put it? You cannot just be sitting there and be like, it'd be a good idea. Let's just take every anthropomorphic animal, throw this in there, and let's make a cover out of it.
Yeah. Well, let's have Bull Burnham riding the buffalo, and Kamandi riding the giant mutated insect. Click clack.
Yeah.
And look,
I couldn't remember the name. I kept wanting to say Tink Tink.
Yeah. and then among the prizes for the winner of the Sacker sweepstakes, people. Yeah, and Click Clack had to be put down like a horse, and Kamandi had to be the one to do it, or Kamandi wouldn't let anybody else do it. He had to do it.
All right, so that middle one is Kamandi Challenge #1. This is that Bruce Timm cover. I just bought it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice, Pam.
While watching this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Pam was just like, I'm doing it.
Yep.
But I love the Bruce Timm cover. I love the animated feel behind it. I love the darkness behind it. Everything Tim did was, it had that dark background no matter what, because the main character always shines somehow.
Yeah.
Look at his eyes. He knows they're back there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
they're all they're sneaking up. He knows they're there.
You think he's gonna see us? Well, maybe. And the last one is Kamandi Challenge.
Jesus Christ.
Well, Kamandi,
he was the Johnny Storm before Johnny Storm.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
except Johnny Storm actually got some
from a damn bug. That's terrible.
Well, I guess if Kamandi was going to get some, it would be about the same.
Kamandi, he was not. even though that was his mount, he was not mounting it. Okay.
Is it incense or insects? Like,
Insect,
but Kamandi number 12. This is actually the Frank Miller cover before Frank Miller lost all of his weight. So I had to throw some love up there for this one.
That's a cool cover too.
I like the Kamandi challenge, the little Kirby that they had.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Did you bring your little Kirby with you today?
Little Kirby.
he goes with me everywhere I go.
Like, you know what? It would be great to get a T-shirt that had that Kirby logo on it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they make them out there somewhere.
Okay, and I don't remember Marvel doing shit for Kirby for his 100th birthday. Do y'all?
No.
Maybe they did. I don't remember it.
I don't think so.
I don't remember. I don't think they did.
DC used to always say they paid Kirby more money for creating Darkseid than Marvel paid him for creating over half of the Marvel universe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you guys had was it the Rob Liefeld's, when he created his Captain America knockoff, got sued and then had to license Fighting American. You had on the F list last night, and the whole reason Kirby and Simon created the Fighting American was because they didn't like that Timely brought back Captain America, and I guess had other people doing it, and they were like, "All right, this is what a Captain America comic should be."
Yep.
So Marvel screwing Kirby went all the way back to Timely.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one reason too with Marvel not doing anything is because they're so much invested in the Stan Lee legend of Marvel that they don't, as a company, that they don't want to, I don't want to say not acknowledge Kirby, but it's easier for them to to push the legend of Stan Lee than having to push two legends.
Right.
Yep.
All right, then. Let's go ahead and jump to my covers here.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So, Kamandi, Last Boy on Earth, #1, had to do it. I mean, you don't get more apocalyptic than having the Statue of Liberty and the city in ruins behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just awesome. Can't help that one. So I had to duplicate that one. Number 3, Kamandi, Last Boy on Earth, #3. This one was by, of course, the Kirby, and the colorist was Royer on this one as well. Got a giant ape, man. You're fighting a giant ape like David and Goliath, like you said. This is the one with Vegas, and you got the lucky sign on the back.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome cover. Love that.
And again, look at the headings for #1.
Yep.
Beasts that act like men. Men who act like beasts. See the world of Kamandi, the last boy on earth. And then #3, welcome to buried Las Vegas. Once a playground for men, now a sinister hunting ground for gorillas. It's so great. So great.
That is good stuff. That is good. All right. And then my last one there is what number is that one?
That's 44.
44. That's right.
Yep.
I should just check my notes again. Yep. Number 44. Cover artist on this one was Ernie Chan. But the action in that, he's kicking the lizard with the sword.
Yep, he sure is.
It looks like he's punching someone behind him. If I remember seeing that right. But this is a great action sequence. It's a good thing he has George on, so we can't.
Those are barracudas he's going after.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing he has Jorts on, so we don't see the good and plenty when he's, doing the action sequence. Love that. That's just badass.
Well, you're right, Chris, but it's too, because Kamandi exists because DC couldn't get the license for Planet of the Apes. So it's one of those things. DC, if they get the rights to Planet of the Apes, and Marvel doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not just, this other company makes the Planet of the Apes miniseries or regular series instead. It's like, well, no, if they get it, then there's no Kamandi, because they're not going to Kirby and saying, hey, do this. And then also, if Kirby's not doing Kamandi, it was partially Planet of the Apes and partially this other idea that he had like 20 years before, which if he had it sitting around that long, he probably wasn't going to do anything else with it. So if he doesn't do Kamandi, then what else is he going to do? because his plan was just to create it and have someone else work on it, and then his other book, OMAC, got canceled. So we did this. Like, so if he's not doing Kamandi, then what else does he go do?
But you know what? If you're going to copy something, don't just copy it. Take it,
Improve it.
Improve it. Take it. Yeah, there you go. Take it in a lot of different directions, and he did. He expounded on it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very
He
true.
sure did.
Very true.
I think Thundar was around.
I was just about to bring it
Thundar
up.
was before that.
Thundar came out in the 80s, and it was very similar with the post-apocalyptic world, with the scenery and stuff like that, and the mutated animals and everything. It was.
I thought Thundar was earlier than that.
Sonny, the thing
it was
on the
80s.
moon.
It was 80s.
No kink shaming. You're right.
Pretty sure.
Oh
it was
yeah,
81.
yeah, you're right. 1980.
What about if it was the thing that grew on your anus? Would that be just as good as the moon?
There's
Ouch.
ointment for that.
There's an ointment for that.
There's ointment for that.
There's an ointment for that.
Yeah,
But
so
speaking
yeah.
of ointments, don't we have a giveaway to talk about?
Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, talk about the giveaway.
Yeah, Dan. Oh wait, I'm Dan. Yeah, 3 books to give away this month. The What If issue that you see right there to tie into the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. What is that? Issue 37. It ties into it by. This is the first issue where Shia LaBeouf gets the power cosmic. Marvel Age number 12. This is the first appearance. People always argue the first appearance of Spider-Man's black costume. This is the first appearance of it. It's not in story. It's a the concept art, because it was created by a fan and then sold to Marvel. But still, that's the first appearance of it. And then the big one, the Marvel Spotlight there. First Moon Knight solo story, first Marlene, first Crowley, first introduction of his multiple personalities, Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley, and the fact that he has multiple personalities. So if you're a Moon Knight fan, if you're just a Marvel fan in general, that's a really cool book to have in your collection.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
Very
And you
much
can
so.
get it real easy. All you have to do, there's a video on our YouTube page. It has that title card on it. You go on that video. First thing you have to do is make sure that you are subscribed to us. And then you go on that video in the comments and you just tag somebody in it. And then you get entered. You tag people, then you get entered twice. Guess what happens if you tag 10 people? What happens, Sal?
10 entries.
Yeah. What happens if you
I think the
tag
highest I've seen so far was
10 out of
120.
10?
Yeah.
Oh,
10 out of 10. Sonny would tell us.
Jay,
That's-
what were you saying?
I think the highest I've seen so far is
Tell us.
most. I got the booklet. Hang on. The most I've seen so far for tags is 73.
Wow.
And you know
So,
what?
73 entries that I have to enter.
And you know what? If all 73 of those people, if they subscribe and they start tagging people too, that's 1 entry for them.
Mhm.
If they tag 2 people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I
two.
retract that statement. Our very good friend Big McFly, 115.
Damn.
Whoa.
So that's 115 entries for Big B. And if
Yeah.
all 115 of those entries, if they subscribe and they tag people, they get entered too. 2 entries for them, they get 2.
Was
10,
that a commercial used to go and so on and so on?
and so on and so on. So every person that gets tagged, all they have to do is subscribe and tag people too. And same thing. They could win these excellent books. And
Nice,
I've
man.
already been getting the books for next month's giveaway. Let me tell you, next month's going to be some pretty good stuff too.
I like that little. Let me tell you.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you, man.
Girl,
Yeah. Hey, girl.
girlfriend.
Just listen up. All right, folks. Let's go ahead and jump now to what Spencer was. No, I didn't. I held up 11.
Remember the Princess Bride that he
Yeah.
was Inigo Montoya was in search of the six-fingered
The
man.
Six-fingered man. Yep.
Yep. That's
Kill
true.
my father. Prepare to die.
Prepared
You
to
know,
die.
Manny Patinkin said that like he doesn't go a day in his life where someone doesn't quote that to him, and that it's
Yeah.
like his favorite movie that he's done.
Yeah.
I mean, when Christopher Guest turned and ran, that was one of the funniest damn things.
Yeah, it was.
That's such a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was. It was. All right. Well, speaking of good movies and good readings, Dan, kick us off for your recommended reading list.
All right. I have a feeling that most of our recommended readings are going to be roughly the same.
Okay, there's not that much material. The first 59 issues, that Kamandi challenge, and then there was another mini series of Kamandi. That's it, man.
Yeah. So I went, it's Kamandi Volume 1, but I just put that instead of having to just say Kamandi. But yeah, it's 59 issues. It does not end on an actual ending, because when they had the DC implosion, it just got canceled, even though the sales were pretty good. Real quick, for anyone who doesn't know, there was DC implosion. They just canceled a bunch of books across the board. Kamandi was one of them. And so it ran 59 issues. Kirby did, roughly half of it. And then they had various other creators that did the rest. But
they've reprinted 60, 61, and I think 62 in the canceled comic cavalcade.
Yeah, which is something that was not available to the public. They printed up, I think it was 30 or 31 copies that they distributed to creators just so that they could retain the trademarks. And then they printed one more copy up that they sent to Overstreet Price Guide so they could have it officially listed.
And they have also reprinted those in a
it was in the Kamandi Challenge special.
Yes, in the special. Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to read them, good luck getting a hold of the comic, the canceled comic cavalcade issue.
Yeah, that's a rarity.
But because literally there's like 30 copies that exist. Yeah. But you can read them in the Kamandi Challenge special that prints 60 and 61, though they're in black and white. Yep. And it also reprints the first issue of Kamandi and some, and another issue too. I forget which one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So essentially, you read Kamandi Volume 1. That's the bulk of it.
The first 40 are Kirby.
Yeah. And then, he did up to 38, and then he penciled 39 and 40, and someone else wrote them. Right.
Right.
Yeah. The Kamandi Challenge was something they did in 2017, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
That was where, like Gary said earlier, it was a different creative team on each issue. So the first creative team does it, and they tell their story, and it ends on a cliffhanger. And then the next creative team has to come in and figure out a way to save him from this cliffhanger, and then tell their story. And then they end on another cliffhanger, and so on and so forth, until it gets to the final issue that wraps the whole thing up. The basic story is it kind of retells his origin, though it changes it a little bit. So this is not really in continuity with the regular Kamandi series. But it retells his origin a little bit. He goes on this adventure trying to find his parents. And yeah, it's cool seeing all of these different writers and artists have their takes on Kamandi, having characters come in and come out, new characters that they create for it, seeing older characters come in, and just seeing, how they'll end an issue in this wild cliffhanger. And you're like, holy shit.
And it's really cool that the next issue, the creative team of the previous issue tells how they would have got out of the cliffhanger, what their plan would have been. And Jimmy Palmiotti, when he wrote about his issue, he says, "Don't tell anybody, but I'd have done this for free."
I think because like I said earlier, DC had all of these creators coming to him with Kamandi pitches over the years, and they said, "You know what? Let's just do all of them in this." And they, and it says it in the books too. It says, that it took them a couple years to do this 12-issue series because they would have to have one issue completed before the next creative team could work on theirs, because they would have to read it, all the ones before, and see like, okay, and then figure out what am I going to do next.
Yeah,
it was really cool. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but the last issue I thought was really, really cool with what they did with it, and I really dug that. And like I said, it's cool seeing all these different creators. And the Kamandi Challenge special, that's when you get reprints of a couple issues, and you get the the final 2 issues of the Kamandi series that were made, 60 and 61, which Kirby actually penciled the final one, 61. Unfortunately, it doesn't really tie up the series because it was, they were planning to continue it, but still, it's cool to read that. And then Brave and the Bold issues 120 and 157. 120 is the one that Gary had the cover for, where Batman, gets sucked into the future and, and deals with Kamandi in his time. 157 is when Kamandi goes back in time to Gotham and deals with Batman there. So they're both kind of wild, as I guess as a lot of the team ups in Brave and the Bold would be.
Yeah.
But, outside of this is the bulk of Kamandi in these stories here. Other than that, you see him pop up a little bit here and there, but if you want to get 95% of what Kamandi has appeared in, it's this right here.
Yep.
Yeah, they did in the 80s. They did the DC challenge.
Yep.
They did. And there was one other Kamandi miniseries. It was like
yeah. There was the Elseworlds one. I'll be honest, I couldn't even make it out of the first issue of that.
Yeah, it was not great. It was not great, but that's the only other thing they.
It was very 90s.
Yes, it was.
Very 90s. All right, very cool.
And that was not in continuity either. That was an Elseworlds book.
Yep.
All right, very cool. Jamie, I got yours queued up next. You ready?
Cool. I only have one to talk about then.
There you go.
I got obviously Kamandi Volume 1,
Oh,
Last Boy on Earth.
Good pull. Good pull.
Kamandi
Wednesday
challenge.
Comics.
And I figured
that's
Uncle
right.
Gary would love this part.
Yes.
Is that I did pull Kamandi in Wednesday Comics, and I'm going to talk about why this is a gem for those that don't know. This is a short story, 12 one-page chapters, but it's gorgeous and it's heartfelt. It's actually written by Dave Gibbons. Yes, the actual Watchmen artist. It's got the stunning art by Ryan Sook too. It's a stripped down tale that focuses on Kamandi's emotional core, his loneliness, his hope, and his friendships he makes. It captures everything that makes Kamandi that much more special, but with the cinematic, almost animated style to it. And the reason I would say to read this is if you want to feel something, this is the one. It'll remind you that under all the chaos, Kamandi is the boy trying to survive and find meaning in his broken world.
Yep.
And they have that book. I just saw a buddy of mine, one of the dealers at Heroes Con, had the Wednesday comic book collected, and it's a great big giant edition of a book, and it has all the Wednesday comics that DC had done.
Oh, really?
Project, and they're all good. Kamandi is just one of many that were really, really well done. So if you can ever get a hold of that big book of the Wednesday comic books, it is really worth having.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's a good pull. I completely
forgot. Good pull. I did too, Jamie. Good pull on that, buddy.
Definitely, buddy. Good job. All right, I guess I will go next. Let me get my card up there. There we go. All right, so Kamandi 1 through 10 there. Just setting the world building on that one. It's very cool. It's a very good starting place for it, and it's just every issue introduces a new species, a new region, a new relic from the past. It's just amazing. So yes, definitely. I would, if anything, you got to check out this one first, I would say. The next one I've got is the Kamandi 2934. This is the Space Gods arc. And I like this one because it actually shifts gears a little bit. Instead of being like a Mad Max type of feel, it went to like the Space Gods, the cosmic DNA that Kirby always throws stuff in, So it went to the new gods. So it feels mystic, mysterious, and stuff like that. It's got pre-disaster clues that you hint at with Superman. You get more scope expansion. It broadens the canvas of Kamandi's world. So it isn't just savage, but it's also got the new gods or the forgotten gods in there as well. And of course, the last one I had there, Kamandi Challenge. You guys talked about that one already, so I don't think you guys Let me see if my notes say anything that I felt that we missed. But you know what? No, you guys covered it pretty good with that one. So let's go ahead and throw up Gary's.
All right.
Hold on, let me get you, Gary. There you are, buddy. Boom.
On click clack. There we go. So Kamandi, the last. So I got specific. Really, I would tell you to read all 59 issues, like Dan did. I mean, it's all good, but I wanted to pull out two of those. The first one, I'll talk about the second one. I'll talk about Kamandi, the Last Boy on Earth 29. That's the legend where he's not going to let Superman's uniform fall in the hands of that big ugly ape. The legend is he would come back for it. And Kamandi actually wins the suit. And he and Ben Boxer could have taken it, but he said, no, the legend will come for it, and you'll know when he comes, and he'll be back for it. So I really loved that. I just thought that was just a great story. And that's the story that they based that great animated short on.
Yeah.
That we have talked about. And if you haven't seen that, that is well worth seeing. So that was based on that Kamandi 29.
It was in the Constantine.
Okay.
The Constantine DVD. So where DC would put out, where they put all these direct-to-DVD animated movies, and they'll have these shorts on there.
The showcase.
These showcases. That's the one the Kamandi one is on.
My favorite one they've ever done is the Spectre. Kamandi might be my second favorite. So
what did you think of the Sergeant Rock one?
Ask Mighty Mike what he thought of the Sergeant Rock.
That means good things.
Not a fan. I did think it was cool, Sergeant Rock leading the Creature Commandos, though. I thought that was cool. But Sacrificing Easy, no, Mike wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
The Kamandi Challenge cool. 1 through 12 we talked about, which was really great. That's just and that's really cool because if you enjoy writing or you enjoy the craft of writing, it's really cool exercise in writing to do this cliffhanger and have these guys have to extricate themselves from the trap, the peril that they've left. I think it is really interesting the way they do that. And then the first one I want to talk about is Kamandi, Last Boy on Earth, number 16. And that is the first issue I ever bought. I bought that off the rack. And it was a really wild concept that kind of gave you the origins of how this happened. This is where that chemical was leaked, that chlorotoxin that Dan talked about was leaked, and it made the animals intelligent. And it goes through Kamandi is in this lab where there's a war going on with the apes and the tigers, and this ape doctor is doing experiments that parallel these experiments in the diary of a human doctor working on his that had simian test subjects, and one of them was so much smarter than the others, and he called him Whiz Kid. And so there, you read the diary entries of this human scientist, and it's interspersed with footage of images of Kamandi, freeing the other test subjects and rallying them to freedom and all this. And it's just a really great parallel between the two doctors, these two doomed doctors. And I just thought it was just fantastic how they did that, and how they, how you see that the two instances are paralleled. It's just one with the apes, one with the humans, and have the apes in the captivity as test subjects, and the last one with the apes having the humans as test subjects. And again, battles in a war, freeing the subjects and running off, and that Kamandi is leading the humans, and Whiz Kid, this ape, led the apes. And you never see, the human scientist, you never see flashbacks, but you just read his diary entries, and you see the parallel in the the current action that's going on. So I just thought that was a really, really great book.
Very cool.
Yeah. And one thing about the Kamandi challenge too, how they would leave it in a cliffhanger, and the next team would have to figure out a way out of it. Some of them you're looking at, you're like, all right, that's cool. That's not that bad of a cliffhanger. Then some of them be like, holy shit, how are they going to figure out?
Yeah.
Like the one with the end of the sharks where they're falling out of the ship. You're like, how are they going to figure this out?
Yeah.
I think some of the writers were being nicer than some of the others.
Yeah, like if I was writing something like that and I knew someone else was coming behind me, I would try and come up with something. I'd be like, I would come up with something that even I wouldn't know how to write. The one with the organs, with that one, I'm like, how are they gonna write themselves out of this one?
Yeah. Well, even like you said, you would write it where you wouldn't know how to come out. By the next issue's letter column, you got to say how you would have come out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would write him. I'd write that he like got beheaded or something. Being like, yeah, it'd be like, yeah, figure out how to get out of this one, Palmiati.
It was all a dream.
It was all dreams.
And then I would just wait to read what Palmiati did and be like, yep, that's exactly what I would have done.
Well, there you go.
There's also that. All right. For our next segment, of course, is best writer and artist. But I think we all know who we're going to go with here. So I'm going to go first to get it out of the way. Kirby. Both. Okay. Kirby for both. So that's what I'm going with. Dan, how about you?
I mean, yeah, you got to go with Kirby for both. But, knowing that, all right, we're going to pick Kirby for both, I picked some creators that I would like to see doing it. So I was trying to think of a writer that could write some really wild, because to write Kamandi, you got to be able to write some really creative, wild, out there shit.
Yeah.
And the one writer, and I know I've said him for a lot of things before, but like if they were going to do another Kamandi series, I think Donnie Cates would be a great writer to have on it if he ever starts writing again, because you look at the stuff he's done for Marvel and DC, like, all right, it's some pretty cool stuff, but you look at some of the indie stuff that he's done, and that's a guy that can just pull some wild stuff out of the air, and you're like, where did that come from? So I think in this environment, for this character, he would excel at that, mixing the science fiction and the action and all this crazy stuff. And then for art, I did pick an artist that was one of the guys from the Kamandi Challenge. I really liked how Ivan Reyes drew it, how he drew his issue on there.
He draws everything fantastic.
Yeah. All the art, on Kamandi Challenge was great. You could tell these artists were like, that they had one issue to do what they wanted to do, and they were like, I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Jamie, how about you?
Okay, I'll go with Kirby for my writer, but for my artist, I got specific because I didn't want to just use Kirby.
Good.
So from Kamandi Challenge issue number 9, I went with Kevin Eastman. I loved his gritty take and tone on Kamandi on that one.
Very good. All right, Uncle Gary, this leaves you.
All right, I'll take a double shot of Kirby, please. Kirby, look, I mean, we all picked him as writer, of course, because all this sprang from, yes, he took Planet of the Apes, but all this other stuff, he expounded upon it. Again, Planet of the Apes on steroids. He added all this crazy, wild inventiveness. He even drew a map for me and Sal. God dang it. So we even have that. And so I think for writer, what he's done, there's a current writer that's done some really wild concepts on he did a novel called The Last God, and a long form comic, The Last God, that was really good. And what he's doing now on the Hulk, I think Philip Kennedy Johnson could really do a heck of a job with the creatures and the mythology and things like that. I think Philip Kennedy Johnson could be great. And I really like Ryan Sook. I'll take him as my artist.
Yeah, he was really good too.
Yeah, so I'm good with those. Just to take somebody modern, but you got to give the king his props on this.
Yeah.
This is his baby. And he takes it home.
Right, I totally agree. That's why I had to go Kirby with both.
And it wasn't just like I said too. It wasn't just Planet of the Apes that that he got this from. He had this idea called Kamandi of the Caves. I think it was like in the 50s.
Mhm.
And, you know, for a comic strip, it never did any of it. And he said, well, I'll combine this with this, you know, Planet of the Apes riff. So I would be interested to know, you know, what this Kamandi of the Caves, exactly what that would have been outside of all of this other stuff. Like if he had gone for it and just done that on its own, I'd be real interested to know what that would have been.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And I don't know. I, you know, kind of looked a little bit, but not in detail. Like, so I don't know if there's anything out there that says, hey, here's what the original idea for this is outside of all of the other stuff.
The other thing that's cool about this character is if you decide you like it, oh yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah.
Cam, that would have been excellent. The issues aren't that expensive.
Yeah.
Outside of the first issue, yeah.
It's
Even
affordable.
that's not too bad.
Yeah, even that's not too bad, right? This is a very affordable comic, you know. And the hardbacks. Okay, so here's a great hardback. This is Last Boy on Earth, Volume 1 by Kamandi, and I don't know this fellow there, Mike Royer.
There you go.
For me. And then Volume 2. So this collects the first 40 issues. There's the Flying Fish of Kamandi and
Right. Fish, baby.
Royer in there too.
Nice.
And then the Kamandi Challenge. You can get the hardback. It's got all the extras and stuff like that. So, you know, this is very collectible. It won't take you much to have if you want a complete run of Kamandi. And you know, another guy that did some cool covers toward the end of the original run, Jim Starlin, did a couple of really cool covers for Kamandi, as did Joe Kubert. There's some cool Kubert covers in there too.
That's true. That is so true. All right, then. That's all the segments now. We are done. We've wrapped this sucker up and we can put it to bed. Unless anybody has any last minute thoughts or anything they want to add.
Well, I just want to say it's a fun show. When I considered this a few weeks ago, I thought, well, here I'm putting them into something that I know they're going to have to do some reading for. But I feel good because I feel like you fellas enjoyed this character.
Yeah,
It's fun.
I thought it was fun. So that makes me feel good that y'all got some enjoyment out of a character you didn't have much background on. So
the one thing I didn't like though was I don't have the issues, so I was having to read them on my laptop, and you know we've talked about it before.
Yeah, I know.
I don't enjoy
Me
reading
neither.
on my laptop. Like it takes it takes a lot of the enjoyment out of it for me, especially I'm having to scroll down to like get get everything in a panel, then scroll back up, and if I had like a pad, I think that would be easier because you can get like a full page on a pad. But
well, I have even when I read on the iPad, right? When we review something for the podcast, it always gets a lower grade if I have to read it on a device, and it's not the book's fault, but it's just my enjoyment level has been diminished.
Yeah.
Because I just hate reading it on a damn device. So I get that 100%. The enjoyment level, you lose something.
That's true. I agree. All right. Everybody from the chat, thank you for joining in and chiming in.
Thank you.
On this episode.
Pam, we have a date Saturday night.
Pam's got a date Saturday night. Hot date Saturday night.
Hot date with the Legion of Superheroes. First appearances.
She can't miss that. Don't be standing us up for that one.
No.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you guys on Saturday night on Comics Unleashed. So stay tuned for that. And of course, we'll be back next week for Comic Character of the Week, which will be Ultron. So we'll see you guys then.
Ooh. There are no strings on me.
There are no strings on me, nor Dan.
Just Jamie.
Just Jamie.
Pam. Yeah.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam. You're always wonderful in the chat.
Yep.